And now it's time to open up your ears and your minds, MMA fans. It's time for Rick's Picks.
Rick's Picks.
Rick's Picks are lots of fun, and his hair is in a bun, cause it's, you already know what it is.
Rick's Picks.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's the new craze taking the world by storm. Live from the Vox Studios in beautiful New York City, it's time for
Rick's Picks.
There he is.
Hello, my friend.
How are you?
Ask you something.
Wow,
Good.
we're coming in
How are you?
hot.
I'm coming in hot.
Okay,
Listen,
what are you so mad
we're out
about?
of time. No.
Jeez,
I'm not mad, but I gotta
okay, I like
ask
this. I like this. Is it because of Kayla?
No, it's not. That guy couldn't be further from my mind.
Okay.
He's a jabron. He's a chump. I don't even think about him.
Okay.
But I have a bone to pick with you. Or
Yes.
not a bone. I have a question for you.
Wow.
So we were third. We started third favorite segment, obviously.
Yeah. Oh,
naturally,
right.
Naturally.
Yeah.
And we kind of like bumped back up to first for a little bit.
Was
now
it?
We're back down to you bumped it back up. Now it's bumped back down to third. I just want to know, like, are we going like
No. Don't put too much stock into it.
Okay.
In my previous life, I used to say everything was everyone's favorite segment of the week, like with Chill, with DC.
Yeah. Sure.
It was just a thing that I say.
I know, but I don't like
You don't like being third.
The back and forth. No, I'm okay with being third, but let's keep it consistent. Don't
Well,
give me
you
the
know,
hope of going back up to the top spot.
We haven't decorated the space yet.
Listen,
We're still not sure if you're in, you're out. There's no B-roll in the segment. We don't know if you're just doing it off the top of your head.
I don't have time, other days of the week, when I'm working so hard to do that. I come in here, arrive right before, I do my thing, and I get out.
You literally have an Uber waiting for you. The same guy who dropped you off. You're like, I'll be back in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you leave.
Yeah, exactly. There's a taxi downstairs that's just the meter's running and you know I'm coming.
How do you feel about Connor not tagging MMA fighting? I mean, it's an MMA fighting league.
No, it's fine.
You're very... The one thing that he doesn't know is that you're very particular about your retweets and all that. So is there a chance that you wouldn't? Would you not engage with it?
Not true. No, we would engage with it. Not true.
You're very particular.
Are you saying we're stingy?
You're very stingy, yes. I mean, there used to be times in the ESPN days I was like, oh, wow. I mean, can't even get a retweet on this.
That's what I'm scared of. I'm scared of getting embarrassed.
That's right.
You don't want
For the record, I'll retweet whatever you want. The official guy.
We're stingy, but you're just loose with it. You'll just do whatever.
Well, when it's for a member of the team, I'll do whatever. I've never been stingy.
Not true. Never stingy. Happy to support. Gotta make it known though. To your point, like tag, let us know, and then we can support.
But why is it now
he doesn't want to have his heart broken, and I get it.
Why is it now that when I go to tag, it says can't be tagged in photos?
For who?
For you guys. You're so stingy.
MMA fighting?
No, I'm just joking.
I'd be surprised by that. I don't.
No. Why do people do that?
I get it. So, if you're a notable, figure, if you're some of the ones that come off the top of my head, I think like Ronda can't be like. If you're somebody who's got that level of fame and that level of audience size, you don't want every random jabroni tagging you in a.
Can I stop one particular entity from tagging me?
Yeah, you block them.
Oh no, I don't want to block them. I just want to stop them.
No, you have to block them.
Can I just be honest about something?
I think there might be a setting, and don't quote me on this, where it can be like only people you follow can tag you.
That'd be
so then if you don't follow them.
The Cage Warriors account tags me on every damn post.
Okay, well.
Instagram and Twitter. Every post. Guys, I'm good. I don't need to be tagged anymore, please.
I think that one might be a message to somebody. Maybe you just reach out and say, hey guys, like.
Every post. I'm like, I just want to say no mas. I'm good. Or
send them
or pay me if you want the promotion. Pay me. I mean,
sponsored posts. Helwani's for sale.
Quid pro quo. But no, please, no more. Like, you get excited. There's a DM in there, and you're like, oh, it's another tag.
Wow.
What? Enough. It's too many tags. I'm done with the tag. Everything. Carlos Barza
such a letdown.
Is a fighter. Is a guest fighter. Tag. Jessica Penne. Why do I need to be tagged for this? Oh, we've just signed this 1-0 fighter from Ireland.
You know what? You should be flattered. It's a
guys. I'm good. All right.
It's telling you where.
Consider this my message. Can this? Can you clip this? Can you clip this off and send this? Yes.
And then
I'm good, guys. Thank you. I love the brand. It's a great promotion. You've developed many stars, but please no more tagging. I'm good.
Send them a message, and I'm sure it can be recognized.
A personal message?
Just a DM. hey guys,
I'm very non-confrontational.
Love you, don't. That's not confrontation. Hey guys, I mean, I'd say this is more of a confrontation than sending them a nice DM to say, hey, maybe.
I wasn't planning on bringing it up this way, but it just
it just came out.
It just came out. All right, wow, a lot to discuss.
A lot to discuss.
What's on your mind?
First Rick's pick.
Yeah.
Marshall Rogan. No, I'm just kidding. Almost got the spit take right there. Almost got it. Oh, still might. Oh, still might. We might get it. Yes. Go. Oh, he's going. Oh, he's going off. He's going off.
I'm gonna choke.
What if I actually just had like a sponsorship set up with them? Just came out with it right away.
The craziest thing about this Marshall Rogan thing,
yeah.
Well, one of the crazy things is I feel like if I talk about it, people will think that I'm supporting it. I don't even know what it is, but I have never seen something, an outside entity, unite the fighters like this.
Well, I don't know if they're uniting the fighters. It's very like selfishly motivated, and I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. I don't mean selfish in the sense that like they're
paying for this.
That is, yes, but like it helps them, right? The fighters are receiving a benefit to then promote it. It's a sponsorship for all intents and purposes, and what they are sponsoring in this case is a coin, is a cryptocurrency.
Okay, the fact that they're all remembering to do this after the fight is fascinating to me.
The money must be good, man.
The money must be good.
Money must be good.
The other thing is, does Joe Rogan realize that they're talking about his dog? Because he no-sells it every time.
Because he's in the cage talking to them, and they're talking about a coin based on his dog. I'm going to say he probably is at some point aware of it, right? Like, there's too much talk about it in the fight space. He must have been like, wait a minute, and seen the logo, I'm sure. Do
you think he has anything to do with it?
No, I don't.
And how is it, like, they say that they're giving the fighters
could
money.
Be, but I don't know.
How, like, they say that they want to, like, up the performance bonus or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I need to go around and ask, like, how are they doing this?
Well, I think they have money now that they're using to promote, and therefore, by promoting, they're attempting to drive up the price of the coin.
Right.
Which is the end game, right? They want to make money by publicizing it, and the people who will also buy the coin will drive up the price, right? So
did you see Askren's tweet yesterday?
Yeah.
The pump and dump thing?
Yeah, that's what it is.
But what is the dump part?
Once they drive up the price, then they can sell it. It's worth more money. Yeah.
And you think that's their intention here?
For sure. I mean, there's no doubt.
Why is there no doubt?
Because what other intention would they have?
I don't know, just to make a thing that helps fighters? I don't know.
No, because, I mean, that could be, but then why not just help the fighters? Why does it need to be a coin? Just give the fighters money.
How soon does the UFC stop this from continuing?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they can have much of a say of that.
When's the last time? Like, it's been so long since we've heard fighters shout out sponsors, which makes me wonder, if I'm sponsoring a fighter, like, let's say I'm a guy with a t-shirt company. It's called Helwani Knows, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't these guys all this time pay for the shout outs in the cage?
Because first of all, they did. Most fighters, if they're doing like shout out to my sponsors, they do name them.
No, they did that like back in 2009 when there was.
It still happens, but either way, the correlation between the payoff is not as direct, right? In this case, they're driving awareness, which then gets people to run and buy the coin, or buy shares and buy the coin. Whereas before, I don't know if everybody's running out to buy dynamic fasteners, right? Like the direct correlation is not as easy, is not as efficient. In this case, it's very smart from a business perspective for them to say, let's get this awareness, and then it instantly can drive conversion, as opposed to with other like tangible products and things like that. It's more akin, honestly, to like when people used to publicize like websites on their back and things like that, because then you instantly go to the website.
Check it out.
So it's more similar to that, I think, than like the traditional sponsorship thing. But yeah, it's definitely notable. For sure.
Till this day, I still don't know what dynamic fastener is or does, and yet it's like one of those that is always top of mind when we talk about that air. That one, Condom Depot, lumber or something.
Yeah,
Lumber Liquidator.
Lumber Liquidator. I think that's somebody, and I want to say Ben Folks, but don't quote me.
Oh yeah,
actually did an article on dynamic fastener.
Dynamic fasteners,
which is incredible.
What is it? What is a fastener? Do you even know?
Something that joins two things, I'm assuming.
What do you mean joins two things?
Like
sells tools and fasteners to commercial contractors throughout the country.
To fasten two things together, to put things together.
Oh, I see. Ooh, website blocked. I just clicked on the website. It says website blocked.
All right, maybe let's stop talking about it if it's been scrubbed from the web.
All right.
But no, that is not my Rick's pick. Oh boy, almost got you.
It was good. It was good. Even freaking Kevin Holland shouted it out on the show.
They're hitting a lot of fighters, and it's look if it pays off for them, if at the end of it the fighters get paid, and the coin ultimately makes money and they make money, it will have worked strategically. In that scenario, potential losers would be the people, and I mean losers from a financial and investment stake, would be the people who bought it high and then sell low. But that's like any market, right? Like they are.
Yeah.
It's all based on speculation. It's not really real. RDA.
Oh yeah.
I shouted him out last week. Couldn't after what he was saying on the show, but like, just always there, always getting it done. Would have accepted the fight at 170 with Islam Makhachev. The man's a legend. The man is a legend, and made it look easy against Moicano. So,
do you think the fight should have been stopped earlier?
Yes, but I think it should have been stopped by his corner earlier.
Yeah, I thought third round, we're good, guys.
I don't think there was a moment in that fight where the referee had an opportunity to stop the fight. I think Mark Goddard handled it as well as you can handle it. I think his decision to say heading into I think it was the 5th, to say, look, you've got 30 seconds to turn it around, and he did, and gave him that opportunity, satisfies what I would say for a fighter in that scenario who says, no, I wanted to fight, you stopped it early, you're to blame for this. He gave him the opportunity and he took advantage of it. So I do believe it should have been stopped earlier by the corner. I don't have much of a problem with them not stopping it as well. I see both sides.
The corner?
I don't. Yeah.
Corner should have stopped it. He was not winning that fight.
We're going to do this till the cows come home, till everybody turns blue in the face. The fighter
we'll do it next week.
The fighter does not want it stopped, and the corner is reliant upon the fighter.
Yeah.
That is the connection there. I understand why corners don't stop fights. I get it. The culture around this, the fighters not wanting them to do it, makes it an untenable scenario, and the corner loses no matter what. The corner loses if they stop the fight. The fighter blames them for it, or if they stop the if they stop the fight, the fighter blames them, and if they don't, everybody else vilifies them. I don't think it's a winning scenario for anybody. But objectively, if you're asking my perspective, yes, that fight was over, and it should have been stopped earlier.
There's guys and I would assume it's most of them, who don't want to say stop it, but deep down are like,
sure, they want a way out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But again, you're
putting them in a tough spot when you're asking. Like, of course no one wants to say, I'm out. The coaches should say, all right, guys, let's go home.
But it could fracture a relationship. It happens.
This has to be discussed beforehand. There has to be.
I think there should be a discussion.
Yeah.
And there's a certain part of me, there's a certain level to which I approach this, to say the fighters know what they are getting into, and ultimately I would rather them be the ones making these decisions. I understand that there has to be somebody else looking out for their personal safety when they cannot. I think there's a referee in place to do that. I think their corners are in place to do that. But ultimately, if they have had that discussion, I don't think it's up to us to decide that. I think it's up to the fighters and the corners and the referees. And I think no matter how much everybody wants to talk about it and discuss it, it's not in their hands. It's in those three parties' hands.
It's a good discussion.
I get it. But I almost think it's overly discussed.
Really?
Because do we know if he had that discussion with the corner? Do we know if he would have acted differently? If
it's like Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith actually has had that discussion.
Has had that discussion and said, don't stop it.
Right.
Meanwhile, everybody is saying, oh my God, negligence, this, that, the other. He's had that discussion and he didn't want it stopped. So I think there's an over focus on that. While also objectively saying, from my perspective, if I was in that scenario, I would have tried to stop it. The fight was over. But it's their decision. It's not, no matter how much the public outcry is, it is not ours.
All right.
RDA, just gamer, legend.
The man.
Another legend. Congratulations to Habib Nurmagomedov.
Yeah.
Making the UFC Hall of Fame. Couldn't tell if he knew, didn't know. Like,
felt like it was a surprise.
It felt a little bit like a surprise, but at the same time, like, I don't know, that feels like something you'd tell somebody. I don't know.
No, they've done it. They've done surprises in the past.
Yeah, it was.
You mean you got like Suge Knight up in there, all up in the video, you know?
Well, I mean, look, when we're talking about Khabib's Hall of Fame, nobody has been more influential. I'm just kidding. We're not going to go there.
Why?
But
you can go there.
There's no point, and don't want to. Khabib, legend among legends, obviously well deserved. Not even like, you know, if we were doing this based on traditional Hall of Fames, like first ballot, he's a first ballot, obviously.
You think there should be X amount of time between?
Yeah, I do.
Because I actually feel like it's more impactful when you haven't seen them compete for 3-4 years, whatever that time is. And again, I try to compare the UFC Hall of Fame to a team, right? Like when Patrick Ewing retired from the Knicks, they didn't say we're going to wait. They just, you know, there was an opportunity a year later, 2 years later, they retired his jersey. This is the same thing. This isn't the Baseball Hall of Fame.
WWE as well.
Yeah, they do that too.
They choose when. Undertaker, I believe, this year is like he just left and he's going. I do think there should be an amount of time. The problem is they'd run out of things each year. Maybe it's not yearly then, right? Because
there's still enough guys.
The history of the sport is not as long as some of the other sports or even WWE that we're talking about. They need to almost go contemporary to be able to keep up with the pace. I don't think it could be yearly if you were only reserving a certain amount of time. I feel like they've blown through a lot of the historic ones.
No, what are you crazy? I mean, there's so many guys who still haven't made it in.
That are actually going to go in?
Well, like the Frank Shamrocks of the world.
Is Frank Shamrock going to go into the Hall of Fame?
Well, he should be. What do you mean by going into the Hall of Fame? It's up to the UFC if he goes in.
Yeah, I'm saying, is he going to go into the UFC's Hall of Fame? So I'm saying, like...
Well, where's Jens Pulver at?
Yeah, look, there are some.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot. There's not a lot.
And again, I don't want to make this into like a Jens Pulver versus Khabib. Of course Khabib should be in.
No, yeah, I don't think... We are certainly not saying... They are both deserving. We are certainly not saying one, the other. But I am saying, at a certain point, you're gonna burn through those quick.
Sure.
The history of the sport is just not long enough to keep that. So I understand why they have to go contemporary. And look, he's done. It's a nice acknowledgement. It's a nice recognition. Obviously deserved. So I'm okay with it, but I would prefer certainly to miss him a little bit more. And also the fact that Khabib is around the sport so much, he's in our face every weekend. He's got his own promotion. We see Khabib more now than actually when he was fighting. We don't miss him at all. So him going into the Hall of Fame is like...
It is amazing that we see like a Khabib interview used to be because he was so, you know...
Inclusive, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's like, oh, let's hear Khabib's thoughts on Fight Night, 478.
And you know what? I ain't mad at it.
It's great.
The man knows what he's doing.
It's amazing.
The man knows what he's doing.
He's a great coach.
He's a great coach. He's a great interview. His interview skills are just continue to flourish. He is good for a good soundbite. He's good for a good take. But yeah, what about you? I think a little more time, right? You'd like to see.
I just my initial thing is like, oh, I like some distance.
Yeah.
But I know also, you're trying to draw people in. My overall takeaway is I'm just happy that the UFC, I always felt for the longest time, I've mentioned this 1,000 times over the years, I think WWE does a great job with the Hall of Fame. It's a thing, right? It's a part of WrestleMania. It's a thing. And they took that playbook and there's nothing wrong with it. My only thing is they should have taken it years ago. Remember, there was a long period where the Hall of Fame wasn't even a thing, where they were not, there were like 7 guys in there and they didn't touch it for 10 years. Our old friend Ant Evans is really the guy who was pushing for them to do it. He was a longtime PR guy. Then he moved over to the Hall of Fame. Then he moved over to Fight Pass. He was the one that was really and no, I think, coincidence that he's a longtime wrestling fan as well, that he was pushing like, guys, we have an opportunity to add another layer to International Fight Week, another attraction to International Fight Week, get people in. And so I love it. And slowly but surely, honoring the likes of Mark Ratner, honoring the likes of Bruce Connell, the longtime producer who passed away. Some of the guys who aren't necessarily household names, but are very important to the history of the sport, only gives the Hall of Fame, whatever it may be, credibility. you know, I joke about the staircase. I would love to see them actually have a place, put it in the Apex, like in an actual room. I don't know, just something to where this
a physical
this means something. Do you think in our lifetime we see a Hall of Fame, an MMA Hall of Fame? In the next 40 years, is there an MMA Hall of Fame? There's got to be, right?
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
Oh, that is so. What do you mean? At that point, the sport will be 70 years old.
Yeah, but the world's moving away from that, right? We're moving further and further.
This stuff still matters
from physical.
No
representation. There will be an NFT of the
shoot me
of the MMA Hall of Fame.
Come on.
But yeah, I don't. If it hasn't happened by now, I don't think there's a reason that all of a sudden
it's still a young sport.
You know what? When Conor McGregor's done, that might be the time that somebody goes, you know what? Let me make a shrine to MMA just so that I can include Conor McGregor. So yeah, maybe.
Geez. Really?
Conor McGregor? Yeah, I mean that's easy cash grab, right? Like if ever there was a person or a time or whatever, that would be the one. Because what would we be waiting for now? Why isn't there one now? I just don't think the demand is there, but I think people would come for once you start getting Khabib, Conor, those names in there. I think it could make sense.
Will the UFC do a you know how the NBA just did the top 75?
Oh yeah, I love that.
Will they do that?
That
30?
I could see for sure.
No way. They're never doing that.
Oh, wait.
For the 30th anniversary. 30? Next November.
No, that's too soon.
Wouldn't it
I could see it down the line in our lifetime, though.
Could you imagine like the build for that and then all 30?
The problem is the selection, right? Like it's going to be curated by an organization as opposed to all of MMA.
No. This will be UFC only because it's for the UFC's 30th anniversary.
But even then, right? Like there's people who are not in UFC's favor at the moment who wouldn't be a part of it.
I know, but wouldn't it be great if for one night they're like, all right, we're going to do a vote, however it may be. Maybe it's executives. Maybe it's
and just have
half executives, half media. I don't know. They'll make some kind of panel, and the 30 best fighters in UFC history are all. That picture from UFC 129 when the champions are up on the stage, where it was just the champions. So at that point, I don't know what it was, like 9 guys or something, 7 guys. That picture, like how many times is that picture brought up? Imagine you can get all 30 or close to all 30 in the same room.
Oh, yeah, it's a celebration of the history that we really don't
great. You don't get anything close to that.
Yeah, that you pointed out. Like there's an ignorance of the history, and that means something.
I'd love to see it.
You and me both.
At the 20th anniversary show, UFC 167, remember Hoist came out with GSP at the open workout, and that felt special. And they had a couple of them backstage. I remember, I think Dan Severn was backstage. There were a couple, but it was never like a real thing.
There's also something, though, I will say, to the idea of, again, because of how young the sport is, the guys are not that old, right? Like,
nah, but it was
GSP coming back. The dude could fight tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have that same kind of like.
But there's a nice mix of like Hoist and Frank Ken, Mark, Coleman, Severn, then getting into like Chuck and Randy and Matt Hughes. And then getting into BJ Penn and so like there's a nice, I think, selection of guys. And then you start to get the women involved. It'll be pretty damn cool.
It would be very cool. I don't think they're scarce enough yet. Just kind of like we're talking about with Khabib. Like you'll see Coleman cornering people at an event like 4 times a year.
But it would just be having them all together.
I get it. I'm with you.
Get the leather jackets out.
Yep. I would like to see it.
Pop collars.
But I think there's a difference. And I think people have probably considered it and thought that it doesn't get there from a being lucrative or paying dividends. But I would like it, and I think the history of the sport needs to be celebrated for sure. Marina Moroz,
legend.
Everything going on at home. 2 years out of the cage, and I think that's kind of like an underrated part of this story. Like it would be enough to be off for 2 years and come back.
Oh yeah.
But under the circumstances that she's coming back with dealing with her family in Ukraine, not only that, but she won as an underdog. She was not supposed to win this fight based on the betting lines.
Yeah.
Heart of a champion. Shout out to her. Every time you're booking the show these days, you're booking the people that I want to do.
I'm sorry.
I didn't work it out this way, but you have your finger on the pulse, Helwani.
Yeah.
We're on the same page. You have your finger on the pulse.
Actually, shout out to Brad Slater, agent to the stars.
Yep.
Rhonda, Rock, Michael Strahan. He texted me yesterday afternoon. If you don't have Marina Moroz on your show, I riot. I was like, oh, geez. Okay. Sorry, Brad. I thought you didn't watch my show anymore now that I'm not with DC. He also represents DC. I introduced him. So I had to do it. I hope you watched.
Mover and shaker. But yeah, I mean, I agree with the sentiment other than I'm not going to watch anymore and riot, but gotta have her. And her continuing to kind of elevate the conversation and talk about what's happening in Ukraine. She's just doing something good right now. So shout out to her. And then lastly, the family of Cain Velasquez, him being denied bail today, in our thoughts, obviously. And yeah.
It was interesting hearing Kayla talk about that internal struggle.
Sure.
I don't even know what to say, how to say it.
Yep. I think a lot of us are in that position, right?
Yeah.
While recognizing something wrong happened, being conflicted about internal motivations. I thought Kayla put it. You don't want to hear me talk about it. If you haven't already seen it and you're just tuning in now or seeing this as a separate clip, go find Kayla Harrison talking about Cain Velasquez.
Yo, Kayla Harrison the whole day.
What a interview today. I think she's a very special, and will be down the line when we look back at it, a very special athlete and representative of MMA. I don't think she's there yet. I think she's a little bit underappreciated for what she's done already. Not from an athletic Olympic perspective and then transition to MMA, but more so I think the impact she's already had on MMA and what she will continue to have. But also in the way she kind of views herself and views the sport and talks about it, is different than a lot of other people. And I think history will be kind to Kayla Harrison, especially if she continues on the trajectory that she's on. But as you heard her, she said it herself, her window is a certain amount of time, and she's feeling anxious about that.
Yeah.
And understandably so, because I do believe, this may be a hot take, but I believe she's the best female fighter on the planet.
Well, that is a hot take. I got a lot of heat when I put her in my top 10 pound for pound. You're saying she's number 1 pound for pound?
Yeah, I think she's the
wow.
best. There's not somebody.
You think she beats Amanda right now?
There's not somebody I'd take over her right now.
I agree.
Anyway,
people go crazy.
She is a special athlete. She is a next level,
That's why she's frustrated about the PFL thing. PFL matches, she's going back. They'll probably announce it tomorrow or the next day, whatever. It's going to happen.
Yeah, she said the window to fight these fighters that she wants to fight is closing. That said, I think
they should sign Cyborg. There's your fight.
Well, you sign Cyborg, but let's not forget, I think there were people who felt this way about Cyborg, right? There was a time where Cyborg wasn't in the UFC.
Right.
The talks of Ronda Cyborg were incessant and on and on and on. And Cyborg was winning in Invicta prior to coming to the UFC. And she's had many big fights fought in the UFC since. I don't think that window is closing on Kayla Harrison, if I'm being completely honest.
No, she stays in PFL 2 years. She's still 33.
I think she has plenty of time to make that impact.
What we forget is that she's been training since she was a little kid.
Yeah.
Judo. So her body is probably a lot more beat up than your typical fighter who's 31,
Yeah, absolutely. And at the level that she's been doing it, and probably at the level she's going all in on MMA right now, it cannot be easy. But I am optimistic about the impact Kayla Harrison will have on the sport. I'm her stock. I am a holder of Kayla Harrison's stock. Absolutely.
And I don't know ultimately what they're going to have to pay her, but it was the right move for PFL. Number one,
for sure,
she legitimizes their entire, the existence of that weight class. It would not exist without her. Number two, she is the biggest star in their promotion, the face of their promotion, and she keeps them always constantly. PFL has been in the news for the past few months because of Kayla, for really no other reason. It pops up here, Jeremy Stevenson, but like she is such a big star that she was worth it, and it was worth it for Bellator to try to make that play. Didn't work out.
It allows them to say we have one of the best fighters, if not the best female fighter on the planet, right? Or the best fighter on the planet, if they want to promote that. And I think there's a reasonable argument that could be made based on the skill set. Again, the level of competition, we can acknowledge and say that she hasn't done that yet. It allows them to get into that conversation, right? There's not a lot of fighters on the PFL roster where they will be favorably compared to the UFC's roster or even Bellator's roster. This is a position where they have power, where they are able to say, we have a gem, a crown jewel, a cream of the crop talent, and keep them in that conversation. And maybe it can influence others to join.
It also leads to an interesting conversation about free agency in that, like, at what point are you truly a free agent? Like, if you want to leave and...
the matching you're talking about.
Like, in the NBA, there's restricted and unrestricted, right? At one point, you could just leave. At another point, it can be matched and you have to stay. And
Can you, I don't remember the circumstances. Can you refresh my memory what happened with Alvarez and Bellator? I know there was a situation with matching.
It was the same, but ultimately...
He had to take them to court, though, right? To
prove that they couldn't ultimately match it.
So it wasn't necessarily the basis that matching is against his rights as a fighter. It was more on the basis that they are not matching.
Right.
So therefore...
Because what will happen often is a promotion, in some cases, will take literally the offer, change the name, and be like, all right, we'll do the exact same thing.
Right, right.
Now, in the case of PFL, Bellator... Bellator couldn't say, we're going to guarantee you 3 pay-per-views, this and that, to try to get PFL to say, all right, we can't match this.
Sure.
Bellator and PFL are pretty much the same thing. Now, what gets interesting is, what if Bellator put in writing, we'll give you 3 title fights, and we're not going to make you do a tournament, and all this language.
Yep.
Dicey.
Yeah. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think if Kayla Harrison was motivated, again, she's looking at her window closing. I'm more optimistic than she is. She seems more pessimistic about it at the moment. She probably doesn't have time to fight that battle, right? She doesn't have the time to say, I don't think that this is equivalent, and go into that kind of battle that Eddie Alvarez was prepared to have, and then I think ended earlier than anticipated. Yeah, I think she sees the clock running and needs to fight. But it's an interesting conversation about, yes, the matching promotion to promotion. If that clause, look, it's in the contract. We're entering an interesting time. If Francis Ngannou wants to be somebody, let's say he does re-sign with the UFC, maybe he pushes for there not to be match, or any organization. Actually, now that I think about it, let's say he signs with any promotion and pushes that there isn't a champions clause, or that there isn't a matching clause, that he, at the end of his deal, will continue to be a free agent. That could be significant, and that could be interesting, and that could set the precedent for future fighters going forward. It's an interesting time, absolutely, and I think a lot will come from this era of MMA.
Bottom line, it's nothing, a double leg can't fix.
It is nothing a double leg can't fix.
By the way, Kayla Harrison has actually written a book, in case you're wondering. Fighting Back, What an Olympic Champion's Story Can Teach Us About Recognizing and Preventing Child Sex Abuse and Helping Kids Recover. It was released in 2018. In fact, she came in studio. Right,
I was going to say, she came in when you were talking about it.
Yeah, but she didn't know who I was. I remember she was a little skeptical of me back then. She was, all Hollywood. But I think over time we have won her over. The story about Cain Velasquez came out right as we were going live.
Yes, that's right. I didn't give a ton of context there.
This was from Damon Martin of MMA Fighting. Former UFC heavyweight champion Cain Velasquez will remain in jail awaiting trial on attempted murder charges after he was denied bail. In a hearing on Monday, Judge Shalina Brown heard arguments from both Velasquez's attorney, Mark Garagos, and he's actually a very famous attorney, as well as Deputy District Attorney Aaron French, before issuing her ruling, quote, "It is clear to this court that there is clear and convincing evidence that there is a substantial likelihood that release would result in great bodily injury, not just to the named complaining witnesses in this case, but to Santa Clara residents at large. This case involves allegation of extreme recklessness to human life, ramming a vehicle in the middle of the day where citizens are out driving, going about their business, and shooting out of a car at other individuals, which is reckless by any standard. Anyone could have been injured. Anyone could have been killed. When this court looks at Article 1, Section 12, it is the level of risk that the court must take into consideration. With that said, this court is making the ruling that the risk is too great and that there would be no bail set at this time." He was arrested on February 28th, as we know, and I do believe, he is scheduled back in court on April 12th for his next hearing in the case. This is going to be a very, very, very long and complicated process. During the arraignment and bail hearing, Velasquez's attorney argued that his client wasn't a flight risk while showing that he had retrieved his and his wife's passports, and that the court also received 37 letters of support for the retired fighter. They asked for bail to be set so Velasquez could return home to his family while awaiting trial. Unfortunately, that was denied today. Crazy situation. Seeing those pictures of him in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Surreal.
Surreal. Because of how familiar we have gotten with him over the years, right? Like,
yo, he was just on the show like 3 months ago, and he seemed, I don't even remember the last, let me just see this. Because I remember saying something to him. I haven't even looked at this.
Yeah, and I remember how you talked about it. Like you noting the shift in his mood and his demeanor and the way he was. I know it really struck you.
I wrote, "I appreciate the honesty today very much. Happy to see you in such a happy place and at such great peace and in your life." And then he told me if we ever wanted to do the ayahuasca thing together, he'd love it.
Yes, like, that's right. He was a big proponent.
He was so happy. It's just, man. Tough. Anyway, anyone else?
That's all I got.
That's it. And you know what? Shout out to Mama Cormier.
Oh, yes. Good one. Sorry. That was an oversight. Good one.
Shout out to Mama Cormier. May she rest in peace. Had a chance to talk to DC a couple times. Doing pretty well, all things considered. And I know he mentioned this, I think, on Twitter, that he appreciated all the love that he's been receiving. But they were very, very close, and he loved his mom very much. So it was tough to hear that news, but he was back home in Lafayette. That's why he wasn't on the broadcast. They said that on the broadcast. Bisping filling in for the second straight pay-per-view. I thought he did a great job, but not the same without our man DC. So shout out to the Cormier family.
Much love to DC and the Cormiers.
Yes, sir. All right. There he is, New York Rick, owner of the third, fourth, maybe fifth favorite segment of the week. It is a great time anytime Mr. Monday Afternoon stops by.